Hello, welcome to the Roundtable on OGTV. Yes, I called today's program a Ramadan edition of the Roundtable. Yes, it is a program that we analyze and dissect critical issues. But of course, as a nation, you know that we all have one religion or the other. We have our faith tied to a particular religion. That's why today it's so important to talk about the Ramadan. Yes, Ramadan. What is it about? What is the essence? What does this mean to Muslim faithfuls? So I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all Muslim brothers and sisters watching us today on the Roundtable on OGTV. And I say to you all, Ramadan Kareem, how is Ramadan going? Yes, we are coasting to the end of Ramadan. Yes, I pray Almighty Allah grant us that enablement to still witness more years on earth. Today on the Roundtable, we're looking at the significance of Ramadan. And I have with me in the studio Islamic scholar and a professor, erudite professor of Islamic. Yes, join me as a welcome in the studio today, a professor of, language, yes, foreign languages, and of course, he is also a Muslim erudite scholar talking about the Islamic religion. He knows the nitty-gritty of an understanding of the religion. Join me today as I welcome in the studio, Professor Said Timileyin from the Department of Foreign Languages, Lagos State University. Yes, welcome to this program this morning, Professor.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I say assalamu alaikum to you. Thank you so much for being part of the program. Yes, I said earlier that Ramadan is so important to all Muslim faithful, and everybody at every point in time look forward to, from the sighting of the moon, from the counting of the calendar. If we are not using Gregorian calendar, we are using the Islamic calendar. So if the moon is not sighted, at least there's a calendar that channel us towards the need to start and begin Ramadan. So let us just have an overview of what your own understanding is about Ramadan.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ramadan is a special program designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring out the best in us. It's like a kind of spiritual workshop, a 1 month workshop of fasting, total abstinence from bodily pleasures, eating, drinking, and every other kind of bodily pleasure between the dawn and the dusk, between the dawn and dusk. And Ramadan, according to the Quran, according to the Prophet ﷺ, is meant to be a kind of spiritual guard against all impurities. And that's the reason Allah has instructed the Prophet ﷺ that he should tell the believers to fast in the month of Ramadan. When you observe this fasting, you are not just fasting, abstaining from food and drink. You are at the same time abstaining from immoral acts. You are denying yourself of those things you normally take for granted. But the moment you enter Ramadan, you have entered the spiritual workshop where the goal is the attainment of purity. And that concludes, I'm talking about fasting, is that you may be God conscious, that you may become God conscious, because during the month of Ramadan, there are so many lessons you will have learned from the fasting experience. From the fasting episode, you will have learned the lessons of patience, perseverance. You will have learned empathy, because you will have had the opportunity of experiencing what the haves not do experience. So you will be able to feel the pains of the less privileged sections of the society. So Ramadan calls us to remember that most of the things we take for granted, there are so many people who do not enjoy those. So when you feel it, you empathize with them. It gives you the opportunity of becoming compassionate towards them, and you will be able to lend a helping hand whenever the opportunity arises.
Thank you so much. That's so comprehensive. Yes, Professor, there's something that is kind of dicey to me in terms of understanding. I really do not have a clear understanding about this. You know, in my intro, I talk about sighting of moon and, you know, reading the calendar, the Islamic calendar, not the Gregorian calendar that we all used to. How do you explain this to people who do not even have a clear understanding, like myself? You know, the preparation towards Ramadan, there's a moon that is supposed to be sighted, and sometimes the moon comes, the date varies and how the moon comes. What should Muslim understand? Is it a calendar? Is it the moon? Then if it is the calendar, Islamic calendar, how do you explain the real understanding of this calendar for Muslims to read, and even for people, the non-Muslims alike?
Yeah, well, the prophetic okay, well, we know there are different kinds of calendars in history. You have the solar, which is the most popular because it's the one that is used for administrative purposes today. But there was a time in history when it was lunar calendar. Even in Yoruba land here, our forefathers were using the lunar calendar when the average Yoruba elder says, okay, Apademi Oshupa Meji. He was actually referring to the lunar month in the next 2 lunar months. That's what they were calculating because they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the wherewithal to calculate the solar. So they were using the lunar calendar because they could sight the moon, they knew when it comes out, when it goes in. So that was what they were doing. And the same thing in the Middle East, the same thing in the Far East. There was a time in history when some people combined lunar and solar. They called it the lunar-solar calendar. So, as at the time the Quran was revealed, the lunar calendar was in use in the Arabian Peninsula. And Allah gave his instructions concerning the religious duties of Islam in accordance with the lunar calendar. It does not mean that the solar calendar has no meaning. It only means that for religious purposes we use the lunar calendar. And when the Prophet said, start your fasting with the sighting of the moon and end it with the sighting of the moon, because it is the moon that announces the beginning of a new month.
Okay.
So we have not been properly educated in this part of the world concerning the sighting of the moon. And I remember very well in 1988, Dr. Aliyu Tilde of ABU wrote an article in the Daily Trust. He titled it, "Our People Are Sighting the Wrong Moon," because people who were unlettered, farmers in the villages, would just come and say, I have sighted the moon. And many a time it will be that they had sighted the waning moon of the previous month, not the new moon that was given birth to. And ultimately, this was what led to the National Moon Sign Committee. So, and I think it has been tidied up a lot now. So, we have a central controlling office in the office of the Sultan of Sokoto. So, and you have people to call. From whichever part of Nigeria you are, if you sight the moon, you can call the coordinators and it will be relayed to the office of the Sultan and it will be announced. So I don't think we should have any problem with that. But there are astronomical calculations that are used for the Muslim calendar in particularly most of the Western countries. In the Western world, people hardly wait for the sighting of the moon.
Okay.
They use the astronomical calculations that are also very, very accurate. Very, very. I mean, with the knowledge of science now, it is possible to project accurately the rising and the setting of the moon in the next few years. So, in those places, particularly in the temperate regions where the sky is not as clear as you have it in the desert, that's what they use, and it is okay for them. Here, because we have a desert area here, where we have people we can trust who can sight the moon, which we can make do with that. If, however, someone says, okay, I don't want to do that, I want to rely on the astronomical calculations, no problem, as far as it is not done with a sense of rebellion. You know, in Nigeria, we problematize a lot of things. And, you know, say, okay, we don't want to be under the Sultan. It is wrong. That is wrong. It is not. Islam does not belong to the Sultan. But for administrative conveniences, we have decided that this is the person we want to be. And let me tell you something very important. Sultan of Sokoto did not make himself the leader of Nigerian Muslims. We in the south, in fact, we from Abeokuta, from Ogun State area, proposed that he should be the head of the Muslims in Nigeria. Why? Because he is a descendant of the only Islamic religious reformer raised in this part of the world. And we needed somebody who understood the Islamic heritage, the teachings and tenets. We proposed, in fact, it was our father, Dr. Abdulatif Adigbite, that proposed it. The whole idea of setting up the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs was also proposed by him and some of his compatriots. And so when people now try to bring tribalism into it, the Hausas are this, there. If you have a problem with the Hausa man, you can have. It's a normal thing, the conflicts are normal between human beings. But don't bring it into religion and don't tell us the Hausas are doing this, the Hausas are doing that. If you have unfortunate experiences or encounters with some Hausas, some of us have very beautiful experiences. The narratives will be different. Some of them will have terrible experiences with Yorubas too. So we all have complex narratives, and it is better to leave those out of religious issues. Okay. We know the trajectory of all these issues, and if you think, okay, because you do not understand the intricacies of moon sighting, you are more comfortable with it, okay,
go ahead and do that. Sure. Thank you so much for that beautiful one. And it's again open our knowledge to the understanding of, having to substitute for, pick your option when you know that this is not working for you or you're having issues with this. You can just go ahead and do the one that you think pleases you. Thank you so much. Religion does not cause fight. Yes. Yes, in case you're just joining us, the program is the Roundtable on OGTV, and I've been having with me in the studio Professor Said Temilayi from the Department of Foreign Languages, LASU, and he's also an Islamic scholar. Yes, we've been talking about Ramadan, the essence of Ramadan, and of course the role of faithful towards reshaping Nigeria. Yes, we'll go to our communities. We have of our Muslim faithfuls who have also spoken to the topic of today. Let's hear from them. Let's hear what they have to say as regards the topic today. Ramadan, the role of faithful towards reshaping Nigeria. Nigeria belongs to all of us. What do we do? What does our religion help us to do? Especially this spiritual exercise. What has it done to us? Let's enjoy this beautiful excerpt from our people.
Everybody is expected to imbibe the culture and all that Ramadan teaches in the Holy Quran. And if we are able to imbibe it and we admonish ourselves with the faith for now, definitely Nigeria will turn out for a better days ahead. 1 month is to reshape him generally. Reshaping him in his character, in his way of life, the way he speaks, the way he relates with with people. All this will now translate, to reshaping the people around him, thereby reshaping Nigeria. For example, Muslims are expected to be conscious of what he says. You don't speak, things that will affect others negatively. Then, if you want to speak to people, you have to speak with them in a very good manner. Some people do not have. Some people, are not happy, particularly due to economic situation or something else. You have to speak to them in a very good way so that they will not engage in things that the government abhors. Secondly, as Muslims and somebody who is fasting, Allah wants us to know the impact, the negative impact of hunger. If you have, that means if you have, you need to give, to extend, whatever you have to people, particularly food. Nowadays, people are suffering. Now you have undergone, the problems associated with hunger. Then you give to those who do not have, those who are looking for food, those who are in need. You have to give to them. Thirdly,
are expected to abide by the rules of Allah. Not only by the rules of Allah, but by the rules of the government of the day. We should not do anything that will lead to chaos, things that will lead to rancor among the people. We need to go to the people, tell them what Allah wants us to be doing in relation to what government wants us to be doing.
Muslims do observe their prayers like 5 times in a day, and I believe that prayer is doing a great thing in Nigeria. Without the prayer, Nigeria will have become another sin, which I believe. And as we talk of faith, everybody believe in God, that this God we are serving will not leave us. Faith brings peace. If you have faith that this thing I am holding is what I believe in, surely that thing will come true in your life. And faith brings victory over all our challenges. And when you have a challenge that is troubling your head, or wherever you have challenge, just believe, just have that faith that Lord is my helper, and that Lord will not disappoint you. And then Muslim, you see them the month of Imrah. Some will go to Imrah, that they are going there to do their prayer. That is what they believe in, and they believe that whenever they go for that lesser Hajj, the prayer will be answered. They will ask you to bring your prayer points, and that is what they believe. Faith is all we have to know, because without faith, you cannot get anything.
The Ramadan period is a period where you pull all your thoughts and acts and everything about humanity together, and you take it to God. That is, Allah in the Holy Quran commanded us to fast for Him and not for anybody. And that is what we call taqwa. When you fast because of the fear of Allah, you must have the fear of Allah. You can decide to eat your sahur, and then you go somewhere and eat in the afternoon, and you come out to tell people that I'm still fasting, and then you still join other people for iftar. That is between you and your God. And that is the reason why Allah says taqwa. The word taqwa is the fear of Allah. You must do every act with the fear of Allah. So we are fasting for God and for Allah alone, and not for anybody. And we have to ensure we do it with the fear of Allah, for no other reason. And then building on this, it means whatever we have to do, whether inside our household, in the community, or in the state, or even the nation at large, we have to always employ and take cognizance of the fear of Allah in executing. Even if you are in a position of leadership, you must be compassionate, you must be humane, you must have feeling for the less privileged in the society. And I can tell you that Islam as a religion is a complete religion that teaches us the ethics of humanity. Because by extension, when you fast with the fear of Allah, you will govern with the fear of Allah. You will deal with your fellow human being with the fear of Allah. You will make promises and fulfill it with the fear of Allah. Taqwa. And when you fast, there is what we call standing only and recognizing God. That is tawakkul. You are to rely solely on Allah for whatever you are supplicating for, because He is the absolute one who has the power to grant it.
Of Muslims at this point in time, they need to show love. Also adhere strictly to the tenets of the rules of the Muslims. Of course, every religion has their rules, and once these rules are upholded, the tenets, of course, the community and the country as a whole at large, we also have comforts, most especially in the area of being disciplined, using your conscience to rule daily activities. One cannot be in an awkward conscience that will deter the system and expect the economic development of the community or the country to be stable. Once I know that what I'm doing is right and what you are also doing is right, of course, in that regard, systemically, the system will also be stable economically. So everything lies in conscience. Having to understand the tenets. Oh, don't do this. Mamoti, mamusiga, mashakberi. Treat your neighbors as you would treat yourself. Then, of course, it has an integral economic benefit to the people that resides in any country or in a nation.
Yes, glad to know you're still there watching OGTV, the People's Telly, and the program is the Roundtable. Yes, we're talking about, Ramadan. If we should know that God is one. Yes, this time also we have the Christian faithfuls also observing Lent, and it tells us something that whatever it is, whether you are a Muslim or a Christian, we are one in the presence of Almighty God. Yes, today, and I know that a lot of people have been saying what Ramadan, what a faithful should do. The same way they are referring to it in the Holy Quran is also to some Christian brothers and sisters. They also understand that same way. Yes, thank you, Professor Said Tibelai. When Ramadan is coming, we see preparation in Turkey. People are planning, this is what I should do. But Islamically, how best do you think people should prepare for Ramadan?
Well, the best preparation according to the Quran, in the taqwa, the best preparation is God consciousness. You start with you first try to decongest your programs, because the Ramadan itself is packed with a lot of spiritual activities, and if you want to make a very good use of the month, it is better for you to first decongest your personal schedules. Try to make sure you will be free to do some of those things. Then you need this kind of mental preparation. I'm going into Ramadan. I hope and aspire to come out of Ramadan as a different being. I hope that by the end of Ramadan, I will have been able to purify myself of all impurities, of all shortcomings, of all sins. Because the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said that whoever fasts man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbihi. Whoever fasts in the month of Ramadan with faith, with sound faith, and with the hope of getting rewards from Allah, will be forgiven all of his shortcomings, all of his sins. So you should aspire towards that. And in your mental preparation, you should be planning how to avoid those things that will vitiate your fast. You have to avoid such companies that will cause distractions for you. All those things that may likely cast aspersion on the purity of your fasting, you should try to the best of your ability to program this for myself during the month of Ramadan. And of course there is the meals. It's not about overfeeding yourself, because one thing I have seen among us, particularly in Yoruba land, is that we try to refill what we have not eaten in the afternoon. So you first take papa and maimai or papa and akara, then you go for tarawih and you come back and load again. That is not fasting any longer. It's not that Allah is not going to accept it, but you are depriving yourself the benefit of fasting itself. When we say we need to be financially prepared, you should be financially prepared for charitable acts, assisting people. There are people around you who will not be able to afford the sahur, the pre-dawn meal, and the iftar, the meal at the time of the breaking of the fast at dusk. So how do you assist those? That is your financial preparation. How many people will I be able to cater for? How many people will I be able to feed during this month of Ramadan? It's not about overfeeding yourself. Basically, nothing should change in your eating pattern. What you eat at sahur, just your normal breakfast and dinner will do. Every other expenses should be targeted towards easing the lives of others.
Oh, that's beautiful, and that is also, educative. I am learning on the program today. And I want to talk about a charitable act. People seems to look at Ramadan period as a time for them to, give extending hands of what's it called, to help to the needy. Must it be during Ramadan? Then how does Ramadan emphasize community and charitable activities?
Yeah, well, charitable activities, community activities, charitable activities, welfare activities should naturally run throughout the year. It is a daily thing, but in Ramadan it is emphasized. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, "Hafdal sadaqatun fi Ramadan." The best of charities is the one you do in Ramadan. It means it attracts greater reward, but you should try to the best of your ability to be charitable to others, assist. People are suffering all over the world. Wherever you are, there will always be someone who is in need. You should be able to assist those. In fact, and it is not even limited to fellow Muslims. You don't say, okay, I'm in the month of Ramadan, I cannot take care of non-Muslims. If you want to feed those who are fasting and those who are not. Your primary intention is to fast and to make charity, and charity has no boundary. The beneficiaries could be Muslims, could be non-Muslims, could even be idolaters. What is important is that they are human beings, they are in need, and you assist them. If they are not your brothers in faith, they are your brothers by humanity. So you should appreciate that. Maybe a tradition of the Prophet ﷺ will clarify that. When the Prophet was talking about good treatment of neighbors, and I don't think, with due respect to modesty, I have not read in any scriptures, and to the glory of God, I have read so many of them, but I have not read in any scripture such kind of teachings about the treatment of neighbors. The Prophet was asked the companions, he said, "Do you know your duties to your neighbors at Adruna Hakul Jar? Do you know your duties?" They said, "No." He said, "In Istansarka Nasarta." When your neighbor seeks your assistance, assist him. And who is the neighbor in Islam? The Prophet said, 40 houses to your right, 40 houses to your left, to the front and to the back. It's 160 houses, for God's sake. And it's not possible you have 160 houses and only Muslims will be there.
It's not
so
possible.
it's not possible. So the Prophet ﷺ said, these are your duties to your neighbors. If he seeks your assistance, assist him. If he seeks your support him. If he seeks to borrow from you, lend him if you have. If he falls sick, visit him. If he dies, witness his funeral. If something good occurs to him, felicitate with him. Celebrate with him. And if calamity befalls him, commiserate with him. Cause him no harm. Do not even allow your house to be so tall in such a way that it will prevent the wind from reaching in. Without his permission. The Prophet says, if you buy a fruit, give him out of it. And if you know it's not going to be convenient, bring it in, do not allow him to see it. And do not allow your son or your child to bring it out to oppress his own children. And do not allow the aroma of what you cook to reach him unless you have the art of giving him out of it. So it's a complex, web of human interaction. This is how you relate with people. They are human beings. It's not compulsory they become Muslims but of course you will be happy if they share your faith tradition, but the fact is they are first and foremost human beings. And it's in Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat we have an NGO, we call it Humanity First. So the first thing to consider is he a human being? Is he in need? It does not mean, it's not necessary that he becomes a member of the Ahmadiyya community or he becomes a Muslim. What is important is he's a human being and is in need of help. We should assist him.
Thank you so much for this one. And, we're talking about the role of faithful in reshaping Nigeria. And, this is a country where we have several social vices, kidnapping. And like you said, we are not talking about religion, but we are first of all human beings before we're talking about religion. And this is evil things that are being perpetrated by, the so-called human being. Animal is not the one kidnapping, it's ourselves that this is happening. So the role of faithful towards reshaping is what we're going to talk about. But before we go into that, the night of Laylatul Qadr is one night that is so important. Why? To Muslim, why is it considered the holiest night during Ramadan? That's one. Then another question is, talking about building relationship. Must your relationship be more stronger during Ramadan, or it should be,
I said at the outset that Ramadan is like a spiritual workshop. Allah has designed Ramadan to train us how to relate with others in the remaining 11 months. So it's like we have come for a workshop. You have learned how to relate with people, how to do charity, how to be upright, how to develop self-discipline and abstain from everything that is low. Having learned that in Ramadan, you now carry it on to the other months so that it will be your guiding light. So it is not restricted to Ramadan. Ramadan is only meant to prepare you for the other months so that you know what to do in the remaining months of the year.
You talk about Laylatul Qadr, why is it considered?
Well, Laylatul Qadr is so called because that was the night the revelation of the Quran began. And Angel Jibril himself is reported to have told the Prophet, as Allah revealed, that this single night, which marked the beginning of the revelation of the final legislation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the Quran. So it is the greatest of all nights, and that any act of worship you do during that night is equivalent to 1,000 nights. That is about 83 years and some days.
Thank you so much. It's better now, it's clear. And then finally, your words. We're talking about the role of the Muslim faithful during this Ramadan to ensure we have a sane society. What will be your final word before we finally end the program?
Well, I just wish to appeal to Muslims to truly learn the teachings of Ramadan, imbibe those things Ramadan has taught you. If you have been able to abstain from stealing, from falsehood during this month of Ramadan, for God's sake, nothing is going to happen to you if you abstain in the remaining month. If you abstain from adultery and fornication in this month, and nothing bad has happened to you, it means you could as well continue throughout the year. So we should carry on, bring forward the messages, the lessons learned from Ramadan, and try to make it our daily lifestyle and everything.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Said Timilei. It's been nice having you on the conversation this morning. Yeah. The idea is just to have more light shed onto, the religion, the belief, and of course the spiritual exercise, what it means to us as faithful. Thank you so much for being part of it.
Thank you.
It's very nice having you. Yes, of course, it is for us to shed more light on this religion and to talk about the spiritual exercise, the cultural, and of course, the practical aspect of Ramadan. And that we have done with this little short time with our professor in the studio. Of course, you have learned one or two things. Join us again next week, and this will be the size of the program this week. Join us again next week for more beautiful episode of your darling program, The Roundtable. Until then, my name is Moreni Keji Shobalejin. Bye-bye.
words of Steve Jobs, it says, let's go investing tomorrow instead of worrying about what happened yesterday. The tomorrow is seen by many as a world of technology. Many agree that technology is the fourth industrial revolution, which is tilted towards automation and data exchange and processes, which include cyber physical system, industrial Internet of Things, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence, otherwise known as AI. Technology today is all around us. We live and breathe technology. While most technological advanced countries like United States can boast of Silicon Valley and people like Bill Gates, David Camp, and Mark Zuckerberg, to mention a few, who started a tech company at a young age, Nigeria is not too far behind, as she has on our end a young guru in ICT. His name,
Joshua Bola. I am a programmer. I'm a future skills activist. I love solving problems. I love to create solutions to problems. And I love having fun generally. I'm 11, clocking 12 in a few months, and I'm JSS2.
Calling the youngest CEO or the boy genius, whichever name you choose in calling him, you are not wrong. While his age mates are still finding their feet, clinging to their feeding bottles or attached to their mother's aprons, Joshua Agboola began coding at the age of 6. Now, he is the CEO and founder of Josh for Tech.
Okay, crazy idea. Okay, I was lying then. Okay, if you remember this boy, let's see what he can do. And he said, he talked to Tech Boy. Tech Boy said, no, what's wrong? How we are adults, we're not being together to come and spread the show. We're like, We came there, they were still saying, He said, when I came on the stage, people were still saying, And then my dad told me I should try my best. And that's how I created the concept. So that's just for Tech came from. Before going to Tech Point, I created a YouTube channel. It's Just for Tech. You can subscribe. I post videos regularly on the channel. It's a channel about tech topics, which are everything goes in around tech to even your normal life things. So I created a channel because I want to have something to show. That's when I created my own video. I recorded on a screen. I didn't use a camera at that time. I just got my screen recorder and I recorded. So then I was like, okay, Joshua for Tech. So then we were in a session like that, and then okay, what can we call this thing? We thought, okay, Josh Coder. That would make sense. Josh Coder. That would make sense. Then okay, Josh for Tech.
His talent could be traced back to his primary school days. The young CEO did not just find himself in the limelight. He has always stand heads and shoulders above his peers.
Joshua Agboola was one of our pupils here. Joshua Agboola started in joining school in the year 20.